my friends, Vacation Austin here. Now there's something I wanted to talk about before we get into this video, which was filmed a couple of weeks ago. First and foremost, there has been some developments when it comes to Asus, specifically when it comes to their support. Now I'll be honest with you, it's not great. Now a few people have made videos on this and you can go watch those if you want the details, but the TLDR is essentially there were some major lapses when it came to not only the support being helpful, when it comes to repairs, when it comes to warranty, there's just some issues that definitely need to be addressed. So while that doesn't really change the contents of this video as well as the videos that are going to be going live for the rest of this week, so I do have a partnership with Asus. They are sponsoring this video and a couple of other things, but I do want to mention it because I do think it's important. Now, I've had a couple of conversations with my friends over at Asus about the situation, and it seems pretty clear to me that they are taking it seriously. So the support team is making some adjustments, and it's certainly a major issue for them, and it rightfully should be. Support is incredibly important. And when you send in a product and it comes back or they start charging you or all these kind of things that are not what you had initially sort of expected, that's not great. So I just wanted to mention this at the beginning of this video. Again, the rest of this video and the video that's coming live tomorrow were all filmed before all this stuff happens. So I just wanted to make sure that you're aware that things are changing, things are trying to be improved, and hopefully the situation will be resolved. So we'll see. Anyway, back to the studio before Austin had facial hair and was enjoying my best life.
Okay, so I'm a little impatient. This laptop showed up yesterday, and while I'm supposed to wait to get stuff like the specs and the information, that could be for tomorrow. Today, I'm just gonna unbox it and see what's inside. Now, I do know one thing, which is that this is the brand new Asus Zenbook S16. Inside, we have, okay, so it's got that plasma ceramic aluminum? Oh, okay, I got it. It's a thin boy. It is literally on its thickest point, barely as thick as the HDMI, and it tapers down significantly. Oh, snap. That gives me some G14 vibes. So it's definitely all aluminum. It's maybe not like the world's thinnest laptop. Like I do think it's a little bit thicker than the S13. So here's my hand, and here's the size of the trackpad. That might be the physically largest trackpad I've ever seen. Let's actually see what actually kind of specs we're working with here. It is running a AMD engineering sample. Oh. Is this one of those new AMD CPUs that I've heard about? It's under embargo right now that I don't actually know the information about. It's got 32 gigs of RAM, a 2 terabyte SSD. It does have an NPU, and the GPU shows as a Ryzen 9. I'm gonna assume that it's integrated graphics. All right, so it's a 1800p OLED, and it's running at 120 hertz. Very nice. Now, I have a few weeks to spend with this laptop, so I'm gonna learn a lot more about it. But my first impression is that it is super thin with a 12-core future Ryzen chip inside, probably fairly powerful. You can use the trackpad to change your volume, so I can turn the volume down. I can also change the brightness up and down. If I do, oh my God! If you do the top, it like fast forwards your video. Whoa, look, as I do that, it's like fast forwarding the video forward and back. Oh, so they must have like some custom touch points in the trackpad. Oh, it's also got a stylus, what the? I almost missed it. It comes with the Asus pen. So presumably this is probably gonna be good for like graphic artists, maybe doing a little bit of like light video editing and perhaps a little bit of gaming, although you're probably not gonna game on something that's this thin. So I'm gonna crack this thing open, but my biggest question is, what's like the target for this laptop? They're on to me. I took the screws out, except there's one in the middle with a sticker on it. I bet on the underside of the sticker it says, "Hey Austin, don't take this off." All right, inside we have, oh boy, okay. So we have ourselves a decent sized 73 watt-hour battery and pretty sizable speakers here. I mean, that's pretty much the whole sort of this side of the device. Now the motherboard's up here. Now, even though it is super thin, it does have dual fans and they blow out through these heat sinks on the top. I actually think the Asus are doing something a little unusual because I've never seen any of their laptops with a design. First of all, like this red stuff here, what could that possibly be? Clearly, to put a relatively powerful chip in a chassis that is this thin and this light, Asus had to make some creative decisions when it comes to the cooling, because this all is cooling, right? Like that's actually a substantial amount. Even though the laptop is not thick, they're making up for it with surface area. Is this just a super thin laptop that's meant for Photoshop and Lightroom all day? Or does this have a little bit more performance? Like how much power can they really dissipate with this cooling, because I think that's gonna really make the big difference on if this is a lightweight little portable laptop that looks good but doesn't have a lot of performance, or if this is something that actually has like some real beans behind it. The design is obviously a major point, and Asus has a new name for this finish, Ceraluminum. So the way it works is the top lid is aluminum that gets blasted by a ton of electricity, which results in this soft touch finish. Definitely a unique look, and it should be much more durable than traditional anodization. Now that same uniqueness also comes across to the chassis. I can only think of maybe one other company who makes a 16-inch laptop that is remotely this thin. We're talking 11 millimeters in thickness, and it barely tips the scales at 3.3 pounds. I do tend to gravitate toward 13 and 14-inch laptops personally, just because I really appreciate the smaller footprint. But if you want a bigger screen, the advantage here is that there's really not a lot of extra weight carrying it in your bag. The next big question in my mind was cooling. So I did confirm that they're using a vapor chamber along with the two thin fans, as well as a pair of graphite sheets on both sides of the cooler. Now, this is mostly to keep too much of the heat from transferring to, say, your lap or the keyboard, and the result is a 28-watt TDP, which means that this properly thin laptop can still handle some serious workloads while fitting a very sizable battery inside as well. The screen is a standout feature, a 3K touchscreen OLED with a buttery smooth 120 Hz refresh rate, which, surprise, surprise, looks great. So by no means is this a gaming PC, but with this kind of performance on tap, I did want to try playing the brand new Hellblade 2. Now, this is the very beginning of the game, so no spoilers, and a couple of things jump out to me. First and foremost, this is a phenomenal looking game, even on full low settings and playing at like 1280 by 800. Now, if you've ever played one of these games, you'll know the audio is a huge part of the experience. And if I crank it on these speakers, this puts a lot of the speakers on their gaming laptops to shame. Now, you're not gonna wanna use this as your gaming laptop, right? Like, it's certainly capable of it. Same thing with like, maybe a little bit of editing or something. You've got the performance there. I understand why AMD waited for these new Ryzen chips to build a system like this. It has enough performance inside to get a lot of stuff done, but importantly, still in that super thin form factor. Now, if I'm gonna give you some negatives, there are a couple. One of which is, even with those graphite sheets between the board, the keyboard gets warm. And this thing is incredibly thin with vapor chamber and the fact that they're pushing 28 watts. It's a little toasty, right? So especially toward the top, it's actually warm, but even the keyboard gets a little bit warmer than I like when you're actually gaming and sort of running it through an extended bit of load. That being said though, I'm impressed. I still wish that this had dedicated graphics, but I completely understand that that's just not possible in this thin form factor, right? And what they've done with this size of this laptop is fill it with a surprisingly rich set of speakers. That's the thing that I'm almost more impressed about more than anything else. That being said though, for something that's this thin and this light, it's actually a pretty good experience for lighter gaming and lighter creative tasks. And with that Ryzen AI chip as well as a Windows Hello webcam, it is very snappy to wake up from sleep. As you can see here, the quality is actually pretty solid on the webcam too. So when you put this all together, it's a very interesting device because you've got a large 16-inch form factor that's super thin, but you also have a very nice 120 Hz OLED display. You've got those terrific speakers, but let's get real for a second. This isn't the normal kind of laptop that I look at. So typically, when you have a larger laptop that's supposed to be thin and light, the size means that it doesn't really feel all that thin or light, but this really does. I always assume that when I have a larger device like this, I expect a little bit of extra performance. Now, something like a dedicated GPU seems like it's normally what you're gonna find in a 16-inch device, especially when you have such a solid port selection like HDMI, USB-A, SD card reader, USB 4, but the thin and light design does make this a bit unique. And to be fair, it does have a lot of performance thanks to that new Ryzen AI SoC. You get all the fancy new features. There's a lot to like here. I'm a little torn because I don't really have a lot to criticize. This is an incredibly well thought out design that it's great for the right person. I just might personally prefer the smaller S13, really just to maximize the portability. Regardless though, definitely be sure to go check out the S16, there's a link in the description if you want to learn more. And of course, huge thank you to Asus for sponsoring this video. Stay tuned too, it is Computex time and I've got a lot more cool stuff coming up real shortly.